if you only socialize with architects, you're not going to have any work. And the thing about it is you need to be out in the community meeting people.
You're listening to the Architect My Life podcast, a show dedicated to empowering women architects and designers to achieve business growth, financial freedom, and health and wellness. I'm Aya Schlachter, your host and CEO of MGS Global Group. Our company provides Revit, ArchiCAD, and CAD drafting services to busy architects and design firm owners. MGS Global started as a part-time gig when I was a new mom, but it has now grown into a thriving business that provides drafting support to creatives, helping everyone maintain a healthy work-life balance. This podcast is proudly presented by MGS Global Group. Now let's dive into this episode. Hi everyone, our guest for this episode is Suzie Hunt. Suzie Hunt is an accomplished architect and principal of Suzie Hunt Architect. After establishing her firm in 2004, Suzie and her colleague Catherine Lee successfully navigated projects from a bedroom startup to a fully fledged office by 2016. Beyond her practice, Suzie serves on influential boards and chairs the Curtin Architecture Advisory Board. As the first female president of the Australian Institute of Architects Western Australia WA chapter, she is a staunch advocate for women in design, founding Work Women Wisdom, a grassroots advocacy and support group for women in design. Suzie is also a TV presenter for MWC Australia by Design, showcasing her commitment to architecture. Her advocacy work earned her the 2021 Paula Whitman Prize for Gender Equity and 2022 WA Architects Board Award, and a Life Fellowship from the Australian Institute of Architects in 2023. I'm so excited to talk to her today. Welcome to the show, Suzie. So I'm really excited to have Suzie here today. Let me talk about how we met. We met on LinkedIn because I was going to Australia and I wanted to outreach to as many Australian women. And to be honest, Suzie, a lot of Australians really responded to me. If we did that in the US, if I did cold emailing in the US, I would probably get like 10%. But first of all, I love Australia. I was there. I'm sad we didn't get to meet, but I really enjoyed the culture. And I got to meet so many people that I think will become lifelong friends. So I'm so glad you're my third Australian guest. So I'm really happy to get to know. You probably know Shannon Battison. She was the first one.
Well, yeah, I know Shannon very well. I mentored Shannon a bit, and
whoa, that's amazing.
So she's an amazing young woman, just amazing.
So yeah, I really had an amazing experience in Australia. I've never been there. I travel all over the world, but only to the Philippines, Europe, and around the US. But I really wanted to experience Australia. And when I came back, I told my husband I want to move there. He's American. Anyway, Suzie, I'm really blown away by everything you've done and continue to do. You're just everywhere, and all your awards. Everyone, you guys have to check out Suzie Hunt Architects. Your advocacy work and like all your projects and the website is just stunning. Like it's something very aspirational for young architects to see that you're doing amazing things, not the cookie cutter, boring jobs that people do. So I want to dive into your architecture philosophy. You've said your love for architecture comes from loving people and their stories. So you say architecture is about people. Can you talk more about it?
Well, I suppose I should give a little bit of background, which isn't on my website. My father was an architect and my mother was very creative as well. And so that I was born when they were very young. And so I lived my parents' life. I lived my parents' journey as well. And I lived my father setting up a practice, like where he started his practice the day I started grade 1 at school in 1970. So I was the ups and downs of architecture. So I was very prepared for this. I didn't ever expect to be an architect. I wanted to be a psychologist or an actress. And then I thought, well, this is a job that I can do both. But anyway, that's another story. Look, I think the thing, my feeling for architecture is, because I love psychology and I did do psychology units at uni, I do feel I love people. I absolutely love talking to people. I love things like this. I love people, and I love the way that architecture can actually help people. Now, the practice I'm in now, Suzanne Hunt Architect, which is 20 years It's 20-year anniversary next year. Before that, I had an amazing different career where I was working in government. I was working at prisons. I'd worked at a female prison. I'd done a lot of like massive heritage projects, government-based projects. So I started this practice essentially when I separated at 40 with 4 little kids under 6. And I thought I have to do something that I can manage my work, but also projects that aren't requiring, like we had a hospitality business as well, designing hospitality, and that's, everything has to be quick, 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 and you've got to be on demand. And I needed something where could actually say to clients, look, I'm going to be taking some time off in the holidays. So that's how it started. But the reality is what I wanted from this practice and what I based this practice on is people and the love of people and the love of talking to people and thinking how as architects, we have this amazing gift to be able to actually transform people's lives, to make them feel better, to make sure their relationships are happy. I mean, we can't really do that, but we try very hard to do that, to make the spaces that we design nourishing. I really believe that architecture can transform people and help people live happy and healthy lives, and particularly residential. So I'd never really done I'd done a little residential. We used to call it private jobs on the side, but I went into residential when I was 40. So it shows that you can pivot in architecture so quickly.
So that's quite powerful, like when you were 40. Let's talk about that. I don't know if that's okay to talk about, because a lot of women are also struggling. Like there's a lot of divorce all over the world. I mean, I would like for you to enlighten people who are going through the same thing. The fact that you had 4 kids and you started your own business and just newly divorced. I mean, what was that process like? And what would you share to people? Like, how do you build your resilience at that point? 4 kids under 6. That's, yeah.
Well, there were twins in the middle there, so that's fine. Look, I think I was always relatively resilient, because of my family life, where Dad was working a lot. He was working he was working in Sydney as well. Had a practice in Sydney, and so it was, our life financially was very up and down. I mean, in the end, he was very successful, but it was, one day when I was 8, I came home from school and we had no furniture, because they sold all the furniture, because they had some antique furniture, because Dad didn't get paid from a client. So I was very used to the ups and downs of architecture. 2 years later, we were in a trip to Europe. So we had a very gifted life, but it was quite an unusual one compared to my friends. And I didn't really know that until I was much older, when I spoke to my friends and they're going, is that what happened? I'm like, yeah. I never had the right uniform at school. So anyway, but that's like builds resilience. It's like what life is. So I suppose the thing is, I went to London. I left school. I left uni. I went straight to London. I was there for 4 years. I loved it. I came back. I brought a husband back. Many of us did in Perth in those days. We all brought partners back, which is really hard for him. And then he was an interior designer. We set up a business. We both worked separately in different practices, and I was in the government. And then when I had my first child, I was 32, and I literally just couldn't get work. I mean, so we sort of used to do these small projects, which I would do a little bit of, and then 17 months later, I had twins, so it was much harder. So I had been, in those days, there was no paid maternity leave. There was no childcare, you couldn't get into childcare. So at 36, I had 3 kids. And then at 38, I had a surprise baby. My other ones were on fertility treatment. This one was a surprise. And, my husband was working, and then we decided that we would just set up a business ourselves under a lot of pressure. Because we had these 4 kids. And anyway, long story short, I had been unhappy. I lost 2 girlfriends from cancer when I was 40 or 39. And that makes you think life is for the living. And one of my girlfriends, as she was passing away, said, life's not a dress rehearsal, Suzie. This is the only life you get, so you've got to make it the best life. And I was pretty unhappy in my marriage, and that was the pivot point. So I was then 40, and I walked away from our business. Our business had become quite successful by then. It was an interior design business mainly, and we were doing really well. And I walked away from that with the kids. So then starts a whole lot of things. So I suppose the thing is that I think that life has to override your architecture life. You know,
I like that.
your life and your happiness are the most important things. And if you have children, if you're not happy, they won't be happy. And if you're not happy, there's a reason for you not being happy. I mean, obviously, there's lots of reasons, but for me, it was being in an unhappy marriage, and we weren't good for each other. You know, it was just not good, and it was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. My parents were really upset with me because I was the oldest, and how could you do this and whatever. But I knew when I lost my two girlfriends from cancer that this is my only chance, and I have to live my fullest life for them as well. And so that's sort of where that came from. It was a massive decision. I walked away from everything. And, I think for people that are unhappy, find, see whether you can find that happiness in you. I mean, I did counseling, we did counseling together, and I just realized this is not going to work. And, I'd lived 40 years of my life had been happy and sad, obviously, as everyone is. But did I want to live the next 40 years unhappy? Did I want that? And did I deserve that? And I made a decision, and it was a financial hit. I didn't get to practice. I had no money, whatever. So at 40, I was like, shit, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I've got to pay for my kids. Like, I've got to support my kids. And so I decided to set up my business. And I set it up. This is the classic. I set it up in my bedroom. It was a loft
I
bedroom in
I
my
saw
house.
that.
And I'd had one girl working with us who was a French architect, and she came with me, and we set up in a bedroom, and that was 20 years ago. And and it doesn't. I think there's this thing, and when I mentor young architects, I'm saying to them, you think that you need to have an office, and da 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 da. You don't need an office. You just need a space, and you need to give really good service. I mean, in those days, there was no websites, so we didn't, we even as an architect in Australia at the time, we couldn't even advertise. You weren't allowed to. So the reality was, if you are feeling like you want to set up, then just do it, but do it small. Do it small and build from it. And I think we were very lucky in our generation for a whole lot of reasons, but particularly because in those days there was no websites, there was no social media. So you relied on communication. You relied on meeting people outside of architects. And when I'm talking to young architects, I'm like, all your friends, you're married to an architect, all your friends are architects, you're never going to get work from that. They don't give you work. They're not giving you work. The people that give you work are out there in the community. And so I'm saying, if you've got kids at school, go and join the school building board. Go and be on the P&C. Go and meet people because they're your future clients. So I think it's a big thing.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for sharing your story. A lot of us women just stay in marriages because it's what society says. They have all the kids, and thanks for being bold and brave for you and your kids. And look where
Yeah,
you are
thank you.
right now. It's never easy to do. So that's one thing for us women, just we can't put a lot of women always put ourselves in the back seat, and we always
Yeah.
try to dim our light so that the other people can shine. But
Oh, and I do that still sometimes, I have to
yeah,
say. So it's not something that disappears.
y-
But I think it was pivotal in losing my girlfriend, particularly one girlfriend. And when you go to two funerals in 2 years where there's children under 9
yeah,
speaking on behalf of their
yeah,
parents, like,
yeah, yeah. It's always there. It's always a storm. There's always a storm before the calm, right? Like everything is so chaotic before you find happiness. It's just the way it is.
mm,
But thanks for sharing your story. So let's rewind a little bit and delve in the early years of your firm. Obviously, that was 20 years ago in Perth. I don't know what the economy was like back then. But how did you land your very first client? And
Well,
yeah,
it's an interesting story actually because we in our practice had it was mainly interiors practice at the time, and so we had one client who had a winery. And then they asked us to do a house. And I hadn't really done houses. I'd done little jobs of houses, and we'd done our own houses and stuff. And so I started on that project. And it was during that project, during the documentation phase of that project, which is when I separated. And so we were doing work on the winery and we were doing the house. And so they were fantastic clients. And my husband obviously was an interior designer. I was an architect, so I was doing the architecture. And we were getting it documented outside. Anyway, that was when I separated, and I said to the clients, look, I've separated. And I went to, it was actually that project that was the pivot point where I went to do a presentation, and my husband was quite abusive, and he said something to me as we walked out, and the clients had loved it, and he said, oh, well, you're useless or something. And I just thought, oh, fuck, I can't do this anymore. So it was like in the streets of Fremantle, actually, when it happened. But that was 2003. So anyway, this project was in our practice, so I couldn't take the project with me, but I continued to work on the project with the clients, but just not in the office, without getting paid. And then when it got to the administration phase, they hadn't set up a contract with us to do the administration. So I then did the administration, but I then got paid. And so because it was outside of our practice. So they were, they still are my clients. I'm still doing work with them 20 years later and with the next generation. They were absolutely amazing. And that project, I remember going through, you go, when you're divorced, you have to go get lawyers and whatever. And the lawyer's going, oh, you've got to give that project up because you won't get as much money. And I said, this project, and I can't believe I was that wise at 40. But I said, this project and these clients are more important than any money that I'm going to get, because they will support me and they will advocate for me. I really believe that. And they have, and they did. So I worked on that project for free. My husband was getting paid for it. But to be honest with you, I was so lucky. And then what that did, that project won some awards. It was in the Southwest. I didn't put it in for any architecture awards. So this was all 2004. I never put anything into awards until 2014, but this project really triggered a whole lot of stuff. And then I also did some work at that time for heritage work, because I had been a heritage advisor. I also worked out at prison. I did some other contract work as well, which also supplemented the business.
So is it safe to assume that there is a lot of work in Perth from before until now? Or you just really are good at networking?
I think, we're like anywhere else. It's ups and downs.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
I mean, there was only two of us. I was in my bedroom. In fact, by that stage, we got in, well, actually probably by 2006, 2007, we'd actually got an interior designer. So there was three of us, and we moved into the kids' playroom. I kicked them out. So
you and Catherine, right?
Yeah.
Catherine is your I just listened to her bio. She was in stage. She was going to do stage design, and you were going to be an actress.
I know, but I know. It was so weird. It was so weird. It's so weird.
Wait, did you meet in London and then
no.
just move?
No, we met. This is a very funny story. And this is what I love about women. This is what I love about networking with women. So I am at this lunch in 2003. And it was for my girlfriend, and she's African. And so she always had these amazing birthday lunches where she invited all these different people. Anyway, I sat next to this woman who was a French Palestinian journalist. And she was living in Perth with her husband. And she goes, oh, look, I've just met this girl, and I know her, blah, 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 through someone in France. And she goes, she's looking for work. She's an architect. She's married to an architect here, and he's Australian. And they've just moved back from Germany. Anyway, I said, oh, and she said, do you need anyone? And I said, look, no, but I know it's really hard to get work at the time. Why doesn't she come in? And that's how she started. So she came in 2003, and then she's been with me ever since. So it's really good.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really hard to find people you can trust, especially with, people are just moving from one firm to the other. And, it's a
Yeah.
testament to who you are because, people stick to good people, right? Like
Yeah, I
it's
think so.
always,
Well, look, I think, I mean, I couldn't run the practice without her. She knows much more about it than me. And it's also given me, as I've got older, time to be able to go and do what we need to do, which is get work.
okay, that's my next question. With your 35 years in the industry, I'm sure you've mastered the strategies of keeping your firm strong. And there's a lot of things changing. A lot of younger architects are emerging and they're more savvy and they probably can work like 20-hour days, whatever. But how
We
do
all
you
did
keep
that in the
any?
beginning, though.
I know. Any tips on keeping the client pipeline flowing? Like, are you diversified? I know you're heavy on residential, but how do you keep the pipeline flowing? Because you have, like right now, how big is your team? And how
Uh,
do you
yeah.
keep the work, like the whole project pipeline and the staffing, things like that?
So
Yeah.
I think I'd like to start that with, we're in the business of architecture, and architecture is a business. And I think sometimes people forget that, you know? And that was like when I said before, earlier, if you only socialize with architects, you're not going to have any work. And the thing about it is you need to be out in the community meeting people. Once you've got, and that's probably from my background of when we didn't have websites. There was no such thing as a website. No one even had the internet. So the reality is that you had to do the hard graft. You have to service your clients well. You know that they're going to do, and those days it was only by word of mouth. By word of mouth was the only way you ever got work. I mean, you couldn't do an ad or anything because we weren't allowed to as registered architects. So service your clients well, treat them with kindness, and really understand and listen to them. Because it's this whole, oh yeah, but I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's like it's actually not about you. We're a service industry. We have to look out for people. Now, that doesn't mean that every client's fantastic. They're not. There are some clients we've said, look, I don't think we're the right architects for you. So I think now we've built up a reputation. But even before, even when I set up Suzanne Hunt Architect for those first 10 years where we didn't have a website, which was stupid, but anyway, we didn't have a website, that it'd be by word of mouth. So I was a heritage advisor. I lived in Subiaco, a inner city suburb. I lived there and I did a job and I didn't even put a sign up. Someone heard, they said, oh, can you come over and see me? And so it's by word of mouth. By word of mouth is one of the best ways to get work. It's hard, but if you just do a really good job every time and you treat people well, then they will tell, oh, look, I had this architect, oh, I hate architects, I'm going to go to a building designer. Oh, I'm not, architects are a waste of money, all that sort of stuff. Oh, no, but she was really great. And we also decided in this practice that we would do architecture and interior design. So it's not just an architectural practice. We do everything holistically, and it's about the psychology of living and how we immerse ourselves in our spaces. And I say to clients all the time, which is probably sacrilege as an architect, we spend more time inside our office, inside our houses, looking out than we do outside going, whoa, haven't I got a great piece of architecture there?
But it
So
helps that Perth is also warm all year round, right?
no, it's
It's pretty warm.
not. It's freezing cold and
So
really
my
wet
husband
in
was
winter.
saying that it's really like you get a lot of sunny days in the entire, a lot of sunny
No,
days
not
in
in
Perth.
winter. We have three
Oh,
months of
oh,
rain and cold. It gets down to 2 degrees, 3 degrees, yeah,
oh
Celsius.
gosh.
It's not
Yeah.
like Cleveland, though.
Oh my God. Actually, I love the snow. I'm Filipina. I don't know if you know that. I'm
Yeah.
Filipina, but I live in Cleveland. I love the snow because it's Christmas, right? We live
Yeah.
in
Oh, no.
the tropics, so being here, I'm like, "Where's the snow? It's Christmas." So we have snow now. I'm really
Do
happy
you know
about
what?
it.
Christmas is never the same as being in the Northern Hemisphere where there's beautiful cold and you're eaten by a fire. I mean,
Yeah, hot
ours
chocolate. Yeah,
35 degrees. It's going to be 35 degrees Celsius for Christmas Day.
yeah. People think I'm
So
weird. I'm Asian. I'm from the tropics. I grew up in the heat, but I love snow.
I love snow. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same, 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 same.
Susie, how big is your team right now? Like,
So
what
my
is, yeah,
team is, well, my team flexes. So we have one, two, three, about six and
yeah,
six, seven, and says two or three are part time. So we've only ever got up to probably 11, 10 or 11.
yeah.
Um, but I quite like that smallness. So we've got architects that do interiors, and we all do everything, to be honest.
Yeah, that's good. You don't
I
want to grow too fast and then get stuck not having enough for the payroll, right? Get
Well, we
consultants
did,
and
when we were.
collaborators.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
like I think, well, these people all work in the office, so they're all
yeah,
here and they all get
yeah.
paid. They're on salaries, most of them, as two that are contract. So we've got a good team, but we do. I realized in the early days there was a period where I was bigger, a bit bigger, probably at 9 or 10, and we didn't have a lot of work, and I kept people on because I felt bad about sacking them, and I'm still
Yeah,
really bad. I'm
yeah.
really bad at letting people go. I'm really bad at that, but I think the team we've got now is brilliant, and and that's why on the website we actually have interviews with them
I love
as
it. I
well.
love your website. It
Oh,
really, I
thanks.
got to know your team. So, how did you do during COVID? Like, what happened to
Well,
your
COVID here
team?
in WA, we were very different to the rest of Australia. So
Oh, okay.
we were the state that was locked. The state was locked in, and if you, I don't know if you know Australia's map, but we're a third of Australia, so we're
Yeah,
in we've got tropics and cold down the bottom. So it was booming. So mining, we're the mining state. So mining was still going, and a lot of people came back to Australia, to Western Australia. There was people ringing us from in the hotel, whatever it was called when they were up there. And they were saying, I haven't been in Australia for 25 years, but I've just bought a house sight unseen, and could you go and have a look at it? So, I think the thing is also, just, I suppose, backtrack a little bit, that because I've done this big infrastructure stuff, and then when I set up this business, it was residential, but it was also local government work. So we've done quite a lot of local government work. We've phased out of a little bit of that over the last 5 years, just because we're getting a lot more residential work. Residential work is better fees for us. Um,
yeah.
so so these people are calling, and I'm going, oh my God. So we had projects on site. Construction had to keep going through COVID. So we worked right through COVID
That's great. I mean,
in our office.
yeah. I have an architecture outsourcing company. My
I
team
saw
is in
that.
the Philippines. We do drafting, and our pipeline was all hospitality.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, everything shut down. But the good thing is, I was able to keep my team, and then I trained them in Revit because that was the only downtime. I'm like, you know what? I got a coach and a trainer to train them
Yeah.
because they weren't doing anything. And Revit is the thing now, right? Like
Yeah,
no
yeah.
one does AutoCAD. So
See,
that's what
we
I
do
did.
AutoCAD. We don't do Revit on residential.
Yeah. No, no,
If we
but
were doing bigger projects, we would.
yeah. So now we have like Revit, ArchiCAD, AutoCAD. But yeah, like that was the time when I was very stressed out because I'm
I
like
can
you. These
imagine.
people have been with me since day one. My first employee is still with me, right?
Same. Isn't it
14
funny?
years. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so but that's such a nice thing, because you have a longevity and a connection, and you sort of get to the point where you know what needs to be done.
Right. I mean, I think I'm very lucky in that sense that people don't leave. Like so far, only one person left in like 3 years because
Wow.
he didn't want the stress of dealing with the client. But it had nothing to do with the team culture, right? Like some
No.
people are just not used to. It was not the right position for him. So that being said, what is your leadership style?
Oh, ra- I don't know. Maybe erratic. Well, leadership. Well, I'm a parent of four kids, and then I'm with my partner who's an architect now, and so we had six kids in 6 years, so we blended our family in
Oh wow! So
2010. We've been together.
You're remarried
No,
now.
we didn't remarry. We haven't remarried,
Oh,
but
okay.
um,
Yeah.
but we've been together for 15, 16 years. So we had six kids in 6 years. So my kids reckon that I am, you're really calm now, Mum. Just like, it's just like, I think it was just a bit crazy to come home and there's six kids all at school in
Oh
6 years.
my God, that's
And
so
then we had
crazy.
the work and it was just like, it was just like, I think, and I'm much calmer now. Like I am, so I think my leadership, in the office, my style probably hasn't changed, and I share that with Kat. Um, but my job in the office is to get work for the staff. I still do a lot of the concept design, do most of the concept design. I'm the one that's dealing with the clients. The policy and the philosophy that we have here is that when I write a fee letter to a client, I say to them, you have my mobile number. You can call at any time, and I will be there to speak to you. So I'm not a person that we all delegate, we all have our roles, but
Yeah,
I am the one. Everybody speaks to clients during the project,
yeah,
but if there
yeah,
is ever a problem, I'm the one they speak to, the clients
yeah,
speak to. So if they're happy or sad,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
things happen during a project, we know that,
yeah,
and so that's, and that takes, there's a lot. We have a table where I have my inquiries there, and then when they're different phases and who's working on them, and that's a way that I can keep it all in my,
yeah,
manageable.
yeah,
My leadership style, my work style here is probably, for Kat and I have been together for so long, it's sort of like we don't, we know exactly how each other works. She manages more of all of the documentation and the staff when they're working on computers and stuff. I come in and do, overview and probably be really annoying, to be honest. For the
You
stuff
know,
I get to,
do you
yeah.
know, I really liked what you said earlier that architecture is a business,
Mm,
right? Where a lot of architects think of themselves as architects and artists, right? We're not here to find an expensive hobby. I also
no,
like what you said that our job as firm owners is to find clients so that we can provide for our team. It's kind of shifted, right? Like
yeah.
before, it was maybe earlier, it was for you and for your family and for Catherine, but now you have an entire team of 6 to 9, right? Like you
Yeah.
need to make sure that you're providing, and that's good because a lot of young architects want to do everything. They want to do the design, the drafting, the proposals, the billing. At some point, they need to remove the hats,
But
right?
yeah, I
Some hats, yeah,
suppose the one of the things is that in the early days, you did do that, and I literally would put my kids to sleep, because I obviously was a single mum then, and I would work from 9 till 3 in the morning, and then this young, like I would work. I was working ridiculous hours, but I still had Kat, and I still had an interior designer with us as well. But what I have done in the last, and I wished I did it earlier, what I've done in the last probably 6 or 7 years, I've always had a very good accountant. So I say to young people, get a good accountant because they will keep you safe. Always, I have very good insurers. So I know that if there's ever a problem, I can call them. But what I've done more recently is I've just got someone who comes in once a week and is a bookkeeper. So I'm not, because in the past, like 6, 7 years ago, I was doing everything. And even then, I was like, oh my God, so have I invoiced, and now I've got a cash flow. God, I wish I did this earlier. I so do. It's, I so do. A cash flow, a bookkeeper who does it all, sets it up. We forecast what's going to be happening in the next year, just assumptions. So I go, okay, shit, that's a really bad month. I need to get some work here, or like, oh my God, we have to reduce staff because we actually don't have enough work. So that cash flow, oh my God, I so wish I had that about how many years has it been? 20 years ago.
wow. Isn't it amazing? I'm speaking at the AIA, American Institute of Architects convention in June in DC, and I talk about firm ownership and how to run a business because I'm on the same boat. Like when I started, I was working with Michael Kors and we did hundreds of stores, and I'm still drafting and I'm doing store design, and I forgot to bill because how am I billing? I have a one
Same.
year. I know, like I have a 1 year old and a newborn and like a 3 year old and a 1 year old,
Uh,
and then I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like I can't get money in to pay my team. But now, like you, 2 years ago, I hired a part time bookkeeper billing
oh,
2 hours a day, because we have a lot of projects, like very small, big
Yeah.
projects, and we have like
Yeah.
60 clients. So they have to keep track of the cadence,
Yeah.
right? Two
Totally.
hours a
Totally.
day, 2 hours a day. That's it. Like, how much is a bookkeeper hourly rate? If you just get them 2 hours a day, it's
Yeah.
good. I can sleep at night now.
Well, I think it is also, it gives you the freedom to be able to go
Yeah.
and get that work because it's
Yes.
so hard to be, because I was doing that at night as well.
Yeah.
That and I think the other thing, I always had a project. Funnily enough, I always had a table that had the projects and where the invoices were. I've still got that, so I can go back and, like, in the first year, I think we made $12,000. I was so excited, so it's just like, so I can still go back over that. But to
Yeah.
have this cash flow with all the costs coming in and all the money coming in and all the costs coming out, all our insurances, staff costs, superannuation, everything. Oh my God. It's a blessing. It's an
That's
absolute blessing.
amazing, right?
And it's so stupid that I didn't do it earlier. And the thing is, and if everyone would have to have an accountant here in Australia, okay, so, and I'm sure most people have an accountant in the world,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
so
Yeah.
the reality is your accountant can set that up. And then if you don't have the finances, you can actually just plug it in because a lot of it is repetitive. A
Yeah.
lot of it is repetitive. And then you see at the bottom line, okay, this is the money that's in my bank. Okay, it's coming up to the top of the next column. Uh-oh, we don't have
Yeah.
enough money. I've got to get some work in. And it really does guide you. So I just, yeah, I think it's probably one of I mean, there's a lot of different softwares. I'm
Yeah.
not so good with software. He's just set up an Excel table for me, or
Yeah. I mean,
he, and
you get a bookkeeper to bill, and you got an accountant to make sure everything's fine. Like, they're
and your
part-time. They're
insurer
not
and your
working.
professional
Yeah.
insurers. If you've
Yes,
got all
yes,
those
yes.
things, then you're actually going to be okay.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
that complicated. It's who, not how. It's who you can
yes,
hire, but
so
not
true.
how, because I'm
Totally.
not good with numbers. Like, I can get the clients, but don't ask me to bill. I'll forget about it. Like, like tracking the hours from my
Yeah.
team and all
Oh,
that.
well, I'm so bad at that. I mean, the thing is also, we probably far too late because I'm old. But now we have a program that actually they put their hours in. So now I can actually track, okay, and we don't charge on those hours because we charge a percentage fee. But what it's allowed me to do is go, okay, when we've done a project like this before, this is how long it took in concept design. Okay, so we should be making sure the fee is going to cover that for this next project.
Is it an
So
architecture software? Can you share it with?
no,
It's not.
Costume, that one. The
Oh,
one for staffing is Costume.
costume, CO,
Costume. Cost as in COST, cost,
and
gem,
oh,
GEM.
okay, that's good to know. I
And
mean, because
the other one we use, the bookkeeper uses is Zero.
okay, that's good to know, because for our listeners, if they can't,
Yep.
like, they're always looking for alternatives, right? There
Yeah,
are
so
big firm. Yeah,
Yeah, so CostGem is it's like timesheets online, and then
yeah,
it equates, what's been spent on that project. So I can actually go and go, okay,
this is too much.
we've got charge out rates, and we've got the charge out rates and the call rate, their cost. So I'm going, okay, yeah, we're okay here. And I think also one of the things I did learn from my dad. I mean, my dad was a very successful businessman and a very successful architect. I mean, he's passed away now, but he used to say to me when I set up this, he goes, you've got to look at it, your core. So how much it costs you, your hourly rate, what is it? So let's say I've done some work and it's cost me $1,000 for ease, $1,000. Well, then you should multiply it by 4. Now, that was in those days. Very hard to do multiplication of 4 now, let me tell you. But in
Now
those
it's
days it
like
was.
2.5, I think,
Yeah, I know.
right?
So, but even if it's 3, so I try to work off the
Yeah,
3. So you've got your core rate, you've got insurances, you've got all the stuff that's the management of your office, you've
yeah,
got tax, and then the 4th should be profit. So that's often the one that sometimes just falls off.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
if you can even multiply it by 3, then that is should be your charge out rate. So if your rate is, I don't know, $20 an hour, for example, you should be selling your services for at least 60, more like
Or
$80 an
80.
hour.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
yeah.
thing that we do, and I've only got better at this in probably the last 5 years, is I feel guilty when I invoice people. I feel so
You-
guilty. Like,
You're not
oh my
alone.
God, oh my God, we did 20,000 hours on this, and like, oh my God, I
Oh my
can't
God, you
invoice
have
them.
to.
It's too much. I'm like, now as I'm approaching a big zero birthday, I'm like, oh my God, fuck that. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't
It's
say
okay.
that.
We're a safe space.
Yeah, like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Even now, I still sometimes have to fight my inner, don't, oh my God, it's so much,
Yeah,
and like, they're coming to an architect, for God's sake,
exactly. Like I'm
their
the same.
job.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they don't, and also the other thing I've learned about that, and this is
I
obviously
think
off
it's a
piste.
woman thing. I don't know if it's women are very
Yeah, I don't know. My
shy
partner's
to.
my
Yeah.
partner's pretty bad at it as well. I think
Oh, okay.
we're essentially creatives. We're
Yeah,
essentially creatives. And the thing is, it takes a long time to get that. And one of the things I say to young architects, if you're going to set up on your own, let's just say you do a private job, like just count the hours that you work on this. Like really
yeah,
be like do a timesheet for yourself, because if you do that for your first two or three jobs, and you're obviously not going to charge a lot because it's your first two or three jobs, like, the reality is you will realize, okay, my hourly rate for this is $10 an hour or $5 an hour because I'm not charging enough. And the
yeah,
fact is, architecture is a business.
yeah.
It's architecture is business. And, when you're doing a little reno for your family while you're working in a big practice, it is a perfect time to actually look at how many hours you are
Hours.
going. And the fact is, in
It's
that
your
big firm,
benchmark. Yeah,
it
it's the
is, and
benchmark.
and
Yeah,
and it also makes you realize, oh no, because it also think if you're working in a big practice, when you fill out your timesheet for that, do you think they're only going to be paying you the hourly rate that you get in your pay? No, they're timesing it by three or four.
four.
They've got a
Right.
charge out rate.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah,
might
yeah,
pay
yeah,
you $30 and something, a salary based on $30 an hour, for example,
yeah,
but they're going to be charging you out at $180 an hour.
yeah. That's so
So,
typical.
so the fact is, you need to be aware of how many hours you are doing, and if you're going to set up a business, again, it's the business of architecture.
Yeah.
You're
Yes.
you're supporting your family with this.
Yes. You know what? I just hired a full time managing director because now we have
Wow,
like we're close to 40 employees.
wow.
When we first worked together 6 years ago, he asked me, when was the last time you increased your rates? I'm like, never. He's like, it's been 6 years. We
Yeah,
need, right?
it's the thing. It's the thing,
Yes.
and
And I'm like,
when
I'm so shy. I don't want to increase my
same.
drafting rates. Meanwhile, he just talked to the clients and said, we haven't increased in 6 years. Our new hourly rate is this. No opposition. Everyone was like, fine. Like, no one was complaining. We just were so cheap because I didn't want to, you know, piss off my old
Well,
clients. It's 6 years
I
of
know
not
we're not.
increasing the rates, right?
See, I think there should be I think two things in schools of architecture. There should be, one is how to run a business. And
Yes.
even if it's not in not even if it's not in school of architecture, I think that everyone should go and do a small business course,
Yes. Or
because
management
but
accounting.
a management
Yeah.
accounting. But the reality is, in Australia, 75% of architects will work on their set up their own business.
Oh,
70%.
wow.
And
That's
it might have
great.
gone a bit less. It might be 60, minimum 60. 6% of architects are going to set up their own business. And the fact is, none of us have done a business unit.
Oh,
None of
yeah,
us
that's
have done
true.
this. We don't. We are creatives by heart. We have to work on contracts, so we understand some elements of the law. We know what we have to do, but none of us have run a business.
That's
So
true.
these things that we're talking about with spreadsheets and all of that, I mean, if I'd done a business degree or business unit, even a business course, I would have set that up way back when.
That's
I wouldn't
true.
have been going, oh, but I can't charge them. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Or there's a staff member who's not doing very well and is being a bit slack and whatever. Oh no, I can't
I
because you've
can't.
got
Because
kids. I
I
can't do this. I'm so bad. Like, oh my God.
I have a business manager who's a guy, and he's like, he really
Yeah,
takes care of me. He's like a kind of like a coach, right? But then he works full time with me. He was in HP for 20 years, Hewitt Packard, and now he's
yeah.
working with me. He's like creating all the systems. I'm like, thank
So
God,
good. I thank God. Good on
right?
you. And I
Yeah,
think, and we've sort of done those systems in house, and I'm like, oh my God, if only I'd done this earlier. But
yeah,
the reality is, we run businesses without a business degree. We run
yes.
businesses without any experience. It doesn't have to be a degree. You don't have to go back to uni. Here, you could go to TAFE, for example. You could go to, you could do small. I mean, there's
Or
lots of
one
different
or two
ways of.
classes on management accounting or finance,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
making
exactly.
a profit and loss statement or a
Uh,
balance sheet,
yeah, profit and loss
right?
statement. That's always an interesting. That's
Yeah.
it. I
So
used to, in the early days, I used to think I'd be too scared to see the profit and loss statement. But anyway,
Oh, oh, trust me, when I onboarded Mike and we were looking at my profit and loss, I was crying literally in tears. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, don't worry, we'll fix it. That's why we're doing this. Like, I didn't know how to read a P&L statement
yeah,
or like a
yeah,
balance sheet. And, I was running the company. For some reason, I was able to wing it. But now we have too many people. I can't just wing it, right?
yeah, and
So
also the
my,
legalities.
yeah. Yeah. And then another question I have is, at the end of the year, just as a general question, do you do your annual planning session, or do you plan your pipeline, like for like next year, for instance, right? Like right now you have 10 projects, let's say. Next year, do you have a planning project pipeline planning session, or it just happens?
So it's quite organic the way we get work, but I
Okay.
do have a table which
Yeah.
I set up, which has got all inquiries, all the names and all the details of it. And then we go into the concept phase and what projects are in concept and what projects are in design development and what projects are in documentation and what projects are on admin. We have in that project, say in contract administration phase, we've got, the cost of works, the finish date, and then I put that onto a table. So I sort of know. We've done that project table. It's just in Word. I've done that for probably 12 years,
Yeah.
and that's a good way. And I'm actually, once I finish this, I'm actually going to actually update it before Christmas because we've
Yeah.
just got a few projects coming in.
Perfect.
And I think so. We're actually, I know I need to, in when we were smaller, I need to have three projects minimum in each phase,
Okay, at least
or two.
that's
Yeah,
the
so I sort
number.
of,
Yeah.
that's the number. But now we've got six projects on site and probably four projects in administration, and then in documentation, and then one in detailed design, and then in concept design we have like eight or something, which is good because that's the people. And then
That's
people
what you want to happen. Yeah, right.
yeah, so people contact me through the website. The website works really well, this website. And they might send something, and then I just keep their inquiry on file, and I
Okay.
keep it in the shed. And then I just touch base with them, 6 months, and say, how are you going? I rang one the other day and I said, look, you contacted me, we've sent you a fee proposal, you are coming, said, oh, look, this has happened. Their family are from Morocco. I said, look, we've got other stuff. I said, yep, no problem. But they just stay on the list, and I just
At
keep in
least
contact with them.
they remember you because you call them, right?
Yeah, I
No,
and I call them. I don't
I
email
know.
them.
No
Don't
texting.
email.
I
No, I
called a friend.
actually
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
use
called a
my
friend one
voice.
time. Yeah, good. I called my friend one time, and she's like, "Oh, I thought calling was a '90s thing. Like that's so 1990s." I'm like, "What?"
That was
Like
the
all the
best years
young
of my
people.
life in the 1990s. I had all my
Anyway, so
kids in the 1990s.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
So
don't
how
look.
old are the kids now, by the way? How old are the kids?
So the oldest is 27, and the twins are 26, and the youngest is 21, nearly
Isn't
22.
it good that they're not in diapers anymore? Like you can actually
I know.
work.
I miss them though. I
Yeah,
don't miss them. I don't miss, it was chaotic, but it is lovely when they love you and they
yeah.
think that you're brilliant.
Yeah.
And
Are they all in Perth?
no, no, one is in the Netherlands, but he's studying in Sydney. He's doing a semester
Oh,
in the Netherlands, and then the other three are, but one was away in London and Canberra for
no
like 4 or
architects.
5 years. No, my youngest is doing product design, industrial
Oh,
design.
okay.
So
That's
he's the
great.
only
Yeah.
he's the youngest of the six, and he's the
Yeah.
only one doing a creative thing.
That's good. At least you have one.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
Susie, so apart from all of the things that you're doing, and I've already learned so much, I'm sure all of our listeners here in the US and all over the world can really benefit from all your stories, from like your personal growth
Yeah.
and all this business advice. How Let's talk about your advocacy for equity, diversity, and inclusion and your work women wisdom. What is that exactly? Can you talk about
So
that?
so look, I suppose I have to probably start a little bit earlier than that. I went
Yeah.
to a girls' school in high school,
Oh,
and it was in the so I was in high school from 1977 to 1981. So it was the 70s, feminism. We had most amazing female teachers that we literally they would have a baby, and we used to joke that they're probably breastfeeding it in the hall because they came back to work within minutes, and
oh
and
my God.
all of our generation, our mothers couldn't work. They had to give up work when they had children. So most of
Mhm.
us didn't have mums that worked. They all had dad. We all had dads. Not everyone had dads, but we had dads that worked. Um, and so these women were just so amazing. They were telling us, that the world is your oyster. There's no glass ceiling. When we finished school in 1981, it's just oh my God, embrace everything. Anyway, we 10 years after that, we all got together and we're just going, whoa, what a load of bullshit that was. Like, it just was
I
like,
know, right?
there's
Because you
such
all
a
were in
glass.
an all women's school. There were
And
no
it was,
men.
and then, but so I'd gone to a co-ed school up until I was 13. But anyway, it's just like, we were so like, yeah, we're going to get the world. We're going to slay the world. And it was just like, oh, that's not what happened. Anyway, I went to Wait at the time, and it became Curtin University. And, I had a good education, not brilliant, but a good education. And that, I had not one female lecturer, and I never had a female teacher. And when we finished, there was only one girl. There was one other girl. So I never had a female teacher, lecturer. The first time I heard a female lecture was on my graduation ceremony. It was a very famous writer, Elizabeth Joly. I remember going, oh
Yeah.
my God, how nice that would have been. So then I started working, and then I went and worked in London. And then the first firm, I remember my dad actually saying when I left school, you need to you need to learn how to type. I said, if you're going to do architecture, you need to learn how to type. I said, why do I need to learn how to type? Obviously, it's been very beneficial. But he didn't know
Yeah.
about computers coming up.
Yeah.
And he goes, because in an office, Susie, you might be the only woman, and if the secretary's sick, you'll have to type the men's
Oh my
letters.
God. That's
And
bullshit.
but that ended up happening.
Oh my God.
In That ended up happening. So when I went to London, I was in this little firm, and the secretary said, "Oh, Susie, can you type the letters?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." Then I went to another a really big firm, Scott Brown, Regan Turner at the time, and there was women partners, there was women lecturers. It was just this. Oh my, not women lecturers, women architects, women partners, women associates. So just
It's
fantastic.
amazing.
Like,
Yeah.
just, I was like, this is so fantastic. I'd never had that. And
Yeah.
so it was just so different. So when I came back from London, for my generation, we couldn't get work when I had kids. There was just no way you could get part-time work. And so then I realized this is ridiculous. And I tried to get work, and all of us tried to get work, and we couldn't. So then I was in my 40s, I'd separated, whatever. In 2017, the Institute of Architects, the WA chapter, had never had a woman ever, woman president. There'd never been anyone. It was always older men. And there's this wall of photos, which I think is
Of
on my
all white
website.
men.
Oh, all white men. and then and then I put my photo there because I
Oh,
became
great.
president. And so that was the beginning of really I worked really hard. It's an unpaid position. You do it while you're
Yes.
working. My kids were
Yeah.
little. My parents died. It was just like, it was, anyway. But the reality was that was such a privilege, and I'm so proud of myself for doing it. I nearly didn't put my hat in the ring. I thought, oh, no one will vote for me. And anyway, it was such a great thing. So during that time, in the first half of my tenure, the first 6 months, I just said, look, it's 2.5 years. But the first 6 months, I said, I'm not going to talk about just gender, because I know all the old guys are going, well, someone actually came to me and said, we don't need a female president. We just need the best president. And I said, well,
Oh,
how do
okay.
you know I'm not the best? Like, it was just like, what the hell? Like,
Good
we don't
for
need a
you,
female.
Susie.
We just need, and so anyway, so basically I did that. I did that role, and after 6 months, I really started delving into women and what was happening with women. And the travesty of this is that when you are in a small practice, you are basically just trying to get work and work and work and work, and you're not
Yeah.
actually looking at a broader scope. So this gave me a broader scope. And what I realized is that there was no changes. There was still this terrible stuff. There was still abuse. There was still, sexism. There was still women who were in their 30s saying, well, I've been passed over 3 times to be a director, even though the people are younger than me, and they've said, well, we can't pay maternity leave if you're a partner because it's too expensive. Like, it was just this stuff. It was just terrible. So I decided that I would get all the women together. We hadn't done anything like this for many decades. And we called it Work, Women, Wisdom, and for work and women and wisdom. And we
Wisdom. I like that.
basically, I had the first event at my house, and we had, God, it was the most amount of women architects I have ever seen. Like, it was sort of like 180 people
All
in
in
just
Perth?
all these in my house. And so it was just this all different ages. And then from that, we started to do events where we talked about, I ended up having equal opportunity lawyers from the equal opportunity department come here to my house, and they talked to women who had problems with a whole lot of issues, and we did events like starting up a practice. We had people speaking. We did events like life insurances and insurances. What do you need? How do you set up? One of the things in Australia right now is the fastest growing cohort of homeless people, women over 55. At the
Oh,
time, I was over
wow. Oh my
55, or
God.
I'm still over 55. But
Yeah.
the reality is that you start to realize that's because we don't have any super. So it's about setting up your financial security very early on. And if you do it, don't be just reliant on your husband or your
A hundred
partner,
percent.
because
Yeah.
the fact is, so many women, they do give up. They might go back part-time when their kids are little, or they'll, manage, juggle life. And the reality is, you won't have that super. You won't have that. And it's also hard to get. And so there's this, it was such a privilege to do that. I'm still doing it. And so what I've done now is Parlour is an amazing, parlour.org, on the agency in Melbourne. It's based in Melbourne, and it's for women. It's the most amazing website. It's got great articles for women. Many of us have written letters to our younger self, which I have done
Can
as
you
well.
share the website, please? What is it
Yeah,
called?
I'm gonna just get it for you.
Or, share it
Because
with me so I can post it
yeah,
in the
no,
links. Yeah.
I can do it right now.
Yeah.
So it's the Parlour Collective. So it's Parlour, PARLOUR
Okay.
.org, OUORG dot
So
AU
parlor.org.
dot
Okay.
AU dot AU.
Oh, parlor. Okay.
So it's
.org.
parlour.org.au.
So this is a resource all only for women?
So no.
Oh,
Well, it's based on women, and it's mainly
yeah.
for women. So I mean, men can reach out there, and it talks
Okay.
about latest laws. It talks about a lot of us who are older have written letters to your younger self. It's got really, really good articles on it, written by architects and others.
Yeah.
about when you have a baby, what do you do? What are the different options? So it's a fantastic thing, a fantastic website. So Work Women Wisdom has a forum. We have a forum on LinkedIn. If you just apply, we let you in, and then I drop a lot of articles and stuff on that as
So
well.
so that's all in the LinkedIn. Work
Yeah,
Women
so
Wisdom.
it's
Is it an
hashtag. Yeah, we've got.
Instagram?
No, we're really bad at that. I'm
Okay,
really
that's
bad.
fine. Like I just want to share that resource to other
Yeah.
people because is it only for Australians or can other women
No,
join?
no, 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 no. It's anyone. So it's
Okay, good.
yeah. So that I mean that's got information. So
That's
basically,
amazing. Thank you so
Parlor.
much.
So Parlor have a thing that they do, which is two. It's Parlor salons, and there's two women talking, and they basically have this chat, and I manage those here in Western Australia with Work Women Wisdom. So that's a joint event here in Western Australia. So I go out and search women, often women that haven't met, which is sort of unusual in Perth because it's not that big, but they haven't met each other, or they're different ages, or they've got different experiences, and then those conversations are put into a podcast.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I would like to
So
hear that.
yeah,
Um yeah, so I
so
I know
that's
we're
the
running.
advocacy. Yeah,
That's great. I'm gonna make sure I link
yeah,
that and maybe
yeah,
ask you separately in an email so I can
yeah.
link that
Sure,
on the podcast.
sure.
But I can talk to you forever, but I want to be
Yeah.
respectful of your time. I just have two more questions. You mentioned something about invisibility of aging as a professional woman. Is that a thing? Like I'm still okay, I'm still at my prime, I think, like 48. Can you explain
You're
more?
at your prime.
Yeah,
Look, I don't.
right?
I've been. I think sometimes it's the old saying, what you reap you sow or something. The reality is that I'm about to turn 60 next on April Fool's Day next year, uh, on the 1st of April,
You look
and
amazing.
thank you. But I've always loved zero birthdays, and I've loved getting older. I don't actually have a problem with that. Turning 50 was cool.
Yeah.
60 all of a sudden is something that you you don't see. Like I've made a real effort in advocacy work to get older women involved, because there's not a lot of older practicing women, or women that were older and stayed in the profession, to be honest with you.
Yeah, right.
So the reality is that I I don't know whether it's me feeling that, but I do feel there is, oh, but why don't you give that to someone else? Or why doesn't someone else do that now? Or so you're not actually asked. So
Oh,
I've won I've been so privileged to be able to do advocacy and won awards for advocacy, a few awards actually for advocacy, which is just amazing. But it's just this, it's like all of a sudden you're a bit older, and I'm really comparing it, and I can't really articulate it. It's probably for another podcast when I've articulated it. But I when men are reached 60 and older, they're sought for their wisdom. They're sought out. They're sought out for a board
right.
position. They're
Yeah.
sought out because, well, they're really experienced. There's not the same generosity for women. Now, that may be because there's not many of us. There's actually
Yeah.
not many of us.
I think we need to do
But
another thing, another group
yeah,
for that. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense now that you
there's not
mentioned.
that sort of generosity. Now, people look at me and go, "Oh, you're not 60," but as I've turned and I'm starting to think, wow, there's just not that. And I don't know if it's not actually obviously on me, but it's just something, there's not a generosity. And I wonder when I was 50, would I have reached out? And I have reached out to the older women that I know now in the
Yeah.
last 5 or 6 years, but there's not that generosity. So I do think it's just something. Maybe
No,
it's
it's
just me being
something
an
that
idiot.
we no, no, no. I mean, I realize you're right. The board positions and advisory boards are given to, a
Well,
lot of the
we have a
retired
policy.
gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's that this government in our state has been really proactive with women, as has our federal government. So every board has to have a woman on it, so that's a good
Yeah.
thing. There
Yeah.
is more roles for women, which is fantastic, but I question whether there are roles for women at your age or in their 50s? Or is there women, roles for women who are architects, not engineers or not running mining companies, those ones, but are there roles for architects?
Yeah.
Are those people being called? Because I think as architects, we have the most amazing experiences. We have the design, creative, we have the legal, we have the construction, we have this amazing mesh of experiences that others don't have. A lawyer has legal. I mean, I'm on the legal practice board, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm the. I think I'm sort of the outsider. Anyway,
Right,
whatever.
right.
But the reality is that we as architects should be sought to be on lots of boards because we have such a wide ranging experience. And then I question, are women of over 60 being sought?
It's something that
I
we
don't
need
know.
to look into. Yeah.
I
Another
know.
study.
I know.
So speaking of
Yeah.
age, while I was researching your, Susie Hunt and your firm, I
Mm,
must say your website is very on
thank
top
you.
of your marketing strategies. Like looking at your website, you're on top of marketing. You have videos. I mean, it looks like somebody young is running the firm in their 20s, because a lot of older women like me, I hate being on video. Like clients don't want to be interviewed. So let's talk, I want to wrap things up, but I really
Yeah.
wanted to commend you for your website and the people on your website, highlighting yourself, your story, your team, your clients. Like, how did you come up with this? I mean, is it,
Well, it's
yeah.
interesting actually because I didn't, as I said, I set up in 2004. I didn't have a website I only got a website in 2014, primarily because I put something in for the awards, which I never normally do. And I thought, oh, I'm going to I'll do a website. And I did this one during COVID. This is a update of the previous one, but you have to sort of rebuild it. What my first brief for the website was, my very first website was, I don't want it to look like an architect's website. I want it to be calm. I want it to have a serenity about it. I want it to feel like you can have you feel like you can go in and just, it's okay. There's nice photos. So then obviously websites have developed since 2004. So this was 2019, 2020 maybe. I thought I've got projects. I haven't put projects. I haven't updated much. Anyway, so this one, I really had a brief. My brief to myself was I wanted it to have the essence of the original website. I want it to feel calm, but I want it to be an information portal because by this stage I'd already been president. So I was on the TV show. So being president at the time, I was invited to go on a TV show to present, which is now in the States, actually. They're doing it through the States as well.
Oh, I'll
And
check it
so,
out too.
yeah, so and I think they're actually sending some of the Australian stuff across as well. So I've done that since 2017, and it's called Australia by Design. And then there's architecture and innovations and product design and architecture innovations. And we did hotels by design in COVID. So there's only short segments. There's a group of us. They used to be all architects. Now there's other sponsors. It's so much fun. I love it. I
Yeah.
think I think as architects, just as probably an aside, but I think as architects, it's really important we stay connected to community and
Yeah.
what's happening out there in the world,
Right.
and not just be down in the
Right.
weeds
Right.
all the time. And this is a
Yeah.
way for me to be out there, and that was like being president and being on some boards, and I've been on other boards. So anyway, the reality is for the website, I want it to be a portal that you can go and find information for, and I want it to be easy to navigate, and I wanted people to know who we were. So because I'd done the TV stuff, I felt confident in doing the videos, and we got it professionally shot. We have a guy who shoots here for when we're on the TV show, and I said, can you come and do the videos? That's when we did the videos of staff. And what I really, when I was writing it, I really wanted to get the essence of what my story is, which is what we've talked about now, but also the essence of how we work. And I say to clients when I'm interviewing them, you're going to walk the journey. We're going to walk the journey together. I'm going to
Yeah.
be by your side and I want you to enjoy it. Sometimes you're going to not enjoy it. Sometimes you're going to be shitty. Sometimes something's going to happen. Sometimes the budget's going to come in, but we will still be supporting you and we will walk the journey and to the end of the project. And
So yeah, like your website actually makes it easier for people to work with you because they skip the step of just a photo and we don't know who you are, what you're
yeah.
like, like if it's just a photo. But watching all of the videos and your client testimonials and the builders and the partners, it already gives people, potential clients, like they're already persuaded to work with you because they like you already before meeting you.
And if they don't like me, they're not going to
That
call.
it's okay. No, but my
That's
point is,
okay. That is
but
okay.
archit yeah, but architects need to learn from your website because I don't know if you know
Not, they
Nikita
can't learn
Morel.
too well. They can't.
Yeah, yeah. No, but in general, right? Like I was blown
Not
away by
too
your
well.
website. Okay. Okay, we'll keep that a secret. But I was blown away by your website because
Thanks.
you're on video. Like I'm trying to be on video somewhere. So you're only like my fifth video podcast. I was on voice podcasting, but now I'm trying to be more on
Yeah.
video. So this is gonna be a video on YouTube as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah,
Well, the one
yeah.
of the
So
things I've been to, one of the things that, because I'm not great at this, but I've got all these I don't know if you saw one of the projects. We did a video of the project finishing. If you look up Libby's retreat, there's a
oh, okay.
video of the project because the client passed away, and so we do
Oh,
this, and
okay. I
then we
have the
also
yeah.
so on the project and also on the pad, we did a video which I really wanted to call the Real Grand Designs, but we thought we might get sued, so we called it the Making of series. And
Yeah.
basically, I wanted to show people what happens when you're on site. Sometimes, and this was done in COVID, this sometimes there's up, sometimes they're down. It's okay. We're there, we're
Yeah.
helping you. And we also
Yeah.
just finished a video called Why Use an
Oh, I see the
Architect?
video. Yeah.
And Why
I'm
Use
just
an
looking at
Architect?
it. Yeah.
Oh, the Why
So
Use an Architect one? Yeah.
no, no,
So
I
the
have the video of Libby's and I
Oh
look at the
yeah,
why use an architect.
yeah.
Is
So
that
the why
under our
use an
story?
architect. Yeah, I have to check that one. I
Okay,
just
but I
saw
will
that
check
it's
it
at.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. But the why, because we've just finished that. Why use an architect was an interview of two clients at
Oh,
the end of
okay.
their project, and they were. I said, why would you use an architect? Because the builder said don't use the architect, and they just went wow. So I hope that my website is good for all clients, even if they don't use us, for other architects. So I'm
Yes.
hoping that
Yeah.
it's an advocacy role. It has an advocacy role for all of us. And so one of the things is this year's or next year's job is to set up a YouTube
Oh, great.
website.
But that was you beat me to my next question. My next question is always, what's next for Susie Hunt? And you just said YouTube
Yeah, well,
channel.
I think a YouTube channel, like I've got lots of videos. I haven't put,
Yeah.
I think video format is, I feel comfortable doing it, so it's great. But I think it's a really good way of connecting because people can hear the tenor of your voice. They might go, oh, I don't really like her, and that's fine. I don't
Yeah.
expect everyone to like me. And,
Yeah.
and sure, we've had clients who have been disgruntled. Everybody does. You have to just move on. But I think all the time you just have to do the best that you can do. But as we started, this is the business of architecture, and we need to be able to get work. And to get work, you need to be responding to all the things that we've already discussed. And I think the website for me has been it's been great. It really has. I worked very hard on that website. It's just, and
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
just, as,
I've seen a lot of websites, Susie. Like, cause I interview a lot of women. Your one website, I mean, all of my clients, even like I check. Yours is really, you know, I
so
love
we're,
your looking at the website. I loved
but
everything about it. Yeah.
so one of the things, because I was coming, I thought, oh, should I better look at my website? And then I realized I hadn't been updated for a while. So I've written a whole lot of notes to say, oh shit, I've got to put that in. You've got to put that in.
No, no, it's
So,
an. I mean, and the work itself, not just the website, but I mean, it could be for another podcast. But your design aesthetic is just
oh, we haven't talked
like
about design. Oh my
I
God.
know. We're just talked about business of architecture because that's what it is, right? A
Yeah.
lot of designers are good designers. Not many people can scale a firm and start a business with four
Mm,
kids and newly divorced. Come on, this is right. This is the real
thank you.
stuff, like the business of architecture. But your design aesthetic is amazing. Like really, I've been looking at
Thanks.
it, the winery and all the homes. Like I want to live in this home.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, we're very lucky to have clients,
Yeah.
and I have to say one thing just before we finish. Someone said to me recently, said, all your projects are different. And I said, yeah, that's correct. But they're all really different. I said, that's because all our clients are different.
Kinds.
And
Yeah.
we respond to a brief and we ask people, what do you like? What do you like? I'm not going to give them something that they don't like. And then someone said, yeah, but that's not how we do it. Like this is what I design, how I design. I said, no, if you're doing residential, this is their home. They're going to live in it. We want them to live there for 30 or 40 or 50 years. You know,
Yeah.
that's the aim. We want that to be a piece of architecture that's there for a long time. And the fact is, you've got to listen to your clients. And if you don't think you can do the work, sometimes we've been asked to do work. I'm thinking, I really can't do that. It's so rude. I'm just not,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we can't do your project. I'll put you on to someone else.
Yeah.
You know, and I do refer clients, if we can't take on extra work, I do refer them
Right.
to other
Right. Right.
architects,
Yeah.
particularly women.
Yeah. That's
So,
great. So is there anything else you would like to mention or share? Anything you would like to
no,
plug, or your website, or your future YouTube channel? Do you know what it's going to be
I don't, well,
called?
like, maybe you could give me some, talk to me how you do it. I don't even have a clue. God almighty.
But
Do
do
you
you
just
have a
put
title
videos?
yet?
No.
Oh,
I've got
okay.
nothing.
Okay. We're going to
That's, you
release
can,
this. Yeah. My YouTube channel is Architect My Life YouTube channel. But
right,
our
okay.
company, my company, MGS Global, we have a YouTube channel, but it's all drafting
Right.
ArchiCAD tips and tricks, Revit, because we want
Yeah,
to
right.
help our clients, right? With all we're
Yeah.
giving a lot of value to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's not, it's very technical, right? There's no,
Yeah.
but this one is me and my women guests, my amazing women
Yeah.
guests. But Suzie, thanks so much for joining us on the show. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very
Thanks.
energized and inspired by what you just said. And I hope that,
Thank
and
you.
I'm sure a lot of women are going to enjoy this conversation. I will drop
I
all
hope
the
so.
links. Oh yes, for sure. It's real, right? These are real conversations, and a lot of people, women, don't talk about the real stuff. Everything
Mm.
always looks good on social, but what is happening
Yeah.
inside,
And
right?
that is so true. That is so true. I think that's the thing that I struggle with social media. I mean, I do some stuff on LinkedIn, but not much. Is the fact that it's all look at great, how great am I? Great am I? I'm so great. I'm so great. And in fact, behind that, we all have ups and downs. We all have
Right.
things. And people have said to me in the early days, don't talk about the fact that you've got 4 kids. Don't talk about the fact you're divorced. Don't talk about this. I said, that's me. It's who I am. And I'm also a talker. So I said, and a
Yeah.
sharer, too much a sharer.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if someone looks at me and goes, oh my God, I'm in a really shitty marriage. I can do this. I can get out of it. Do it. You know, but there's a whole lot of things, which was probably a different podcast, like make sure you've got information so you know stuff. But bank information or whatever. But there's stuff about if you want to set up a business, do it, but do it small. Build.
Right.
We've got a
Yes.
beautiful office now. It's fantastic. I'll show
Yeah.
it to you. This is up here, just
Oh
like
my God, I love
this.
it.
So this is one
Congratulations.
room. This is one room of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So like do these things. And you know what I think women as women we're so cautious. Well, particularly for my generation, too cautious. Oh my God, I don't know. Might fail. But on the other hand, other people and other women are too bold.
Yes.
Too bold. Oh, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I'm going to go and set up this business. It's great. I'm going to get this office and I'm going to have this. I'm going to have a printer. I'm going to have all this stuff. In the early days, you could start small. So
Yes,
there's
that's a good
there's the two
advice.
extremes. Start small. Do it at your own pace. Don't question. Be a good architect. Be a good client. Be a good listener, and actually do help your clients to achieve their goals. And I always say that the architecture I hope that we design nurtures their soul.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you
Suzie.
so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Architect My Life, a podcast brought to you by MGS Global Group.